my finance family. I'm back. And I'm super excited to introduce our new show, The Tax Takeover. Well, I will be using the F word a lot. So before I drop the F bomb, I want to let you know how much I love using the F word. So much so that it's in the name of my business. That's right, the F word is finance. What y'all thought I was about to say? All right, we're gonna be talking about finance on this show, and not just finance as it pertains to just money, but the broader concept of finance, which includes the creation, the management, and the study of money. All right, so for the duration of this show, the tax takeover, we're going to be focusing on the management component of finances through the use of using tax planning. So, you all know that I'm a big proponent of tax planning as a tool to not only grow your wealth, but to protect your wealth as well. All right, so that's what the show is going to be all about. It's the tax takeover, y'all. So, every week we're going to be doing a deep dive into the tax code so that we can highlight some of these strategies, tell you how to utilize these strategies so that you can start growing your wealth. So before I get into it, I want to give you some benefits, if you will, as to the power of using tax planning. And for tonight, for the sake of time, I'm only going to give you three. There's a lot of benefits in using tax planning, but we're only going to highlight three for tonight, right? So the first benefit, of course, is the easiest, the most apparent one, and that is reducing your tax liability. All right, so as you can see on the screen here, tax planning helps you identify credits, it helps you identify deductions, and other strategies that can help reduce your taxable income, thus resulting in a lower tax bill. So, I want to give you an example of how that's done. So, let's take Joe. Joe is a contractor, which means that Joe probably owns his own business, right? So because Joe owns his own business, he has to file a 1040 form, which is his, tax return that most taxpayers have to file. But in addition to filing that 1040 form, Joe also has to file a Schedule C, which is just simply a profit and loss statement for a business that gets filed at the end of the year. All right. And because Joe is a savvy taxpayer, sorry, because he's a savvy taxpayer, Joe also understands that there are certain deductions that are afforded to him as a small business owner. So Joe realizes that he does most of the work for the company out of the comfort of his home. So Joe says, I can take a deduction for my home office. And Joe absolutely can do that. So then Joe does the calculations to see that the home office deduction does give him an expense, a business expense of $1,500, right? Pretty good, Joe. So now Joe is able to reduce his taxable income by $1,500, thus reducing his tax bill. And so you might say, wow, good for Joe. That's tax planning. But that's not tax planning. No, tax planning is a little more in depth than just taking advantage of the home office credit. Tax planning is connecting with a professional like myself, an expert, a strategist, and then I hip Joe to the Augusta rule, right? And Joe says, I've never heard of the Augusta rule. Like, what is that, Samara? So, the Augusta rule affords the business owner the opportunity to lease his home or a portion of his home for a business related function. And because that owner is leasing a portion of their home to the business for a business related function, let's say that that bill comes at a cost of $5,000. Now, instead of Joe being able to just write off $1,500 for the use of his home, now Joe can write off $5,000 for the use of his home, right? That's tax planning, right? So now Joe is able to reduce his taxable income by $5,000, thus reducing his overall tax liability. That's tax planning, right? Number one benefit. Number two benefit, not as sexy, but it's definitely something you need to do, is being able to manage your cash flow better. Okay, so tax planning also helps you manage your cash flow better by using strategies that help reduce your tax payments. So we all know the same, like if you want the best way to eat a cake is a slice at a time, right? So if you take it little by little, then you're able to do or pay your taxes in a way that's more manageable, right? So you're able to manage your cash flow better by taking a small piece at a time over a longer period of time, all right? So although you're not required, and I tell this to all my clients, you're not required as a LLC or as a S corp even to pay into the system every quarter. Okay, you are advised to do so, right? So I advise my clients to pay into the system every quarter so that they can attack a little at a time, so that they don't have this huge tax bill at the end of the year, and then they get interest on top of that, because guess what? Although the Internal Revenue Service says you don't have to pay in every quarter, they do penalize you for not doing so. So you also eliminate that tax bill as well when you take the advantage of attacking your tax liability a little at a time. Not as sexy as the first one, not as sexy as the first benefit for sure, but definitely a benefit that will help with the management of your cash flow. And then our third benefit is also going back to sexy land. So the third benefit is improving your financial planning. Okay. So when you understand your tax obligations and you implement strategies to minimize your taxes, now you can make better business decisions. And now these better business decisions can bring you more of a long term success, right? By utilizing the tool of tax planning. So I want to give you an example. Like I'm sure you heard in these social media streets, everybody saying, "Oh, do the S corp election, S corp election, S corp election," and that may be fine and well, but there's a time and a place to make that S corp election. And I'm definitely going to do a deep dive into this one. This one I'm going to have a whole show around because I want to make sure that I take my time to walk you through it. But for the purpose of showing you the power of tax planning, I want to highlight some of the benefits, or I should say, just one benefit of utilizing the S Corp election as a tax planning tool, right? So let's go back to Joe. So, Joe, you know what? Not better yet. I'm going to give you a real life event using a client of mine to show you just how the S Corp election can be utilized as a tax planning tool and the benefits that it can give you. All right. So, I had a client who had gross revenues of about $350,000. And so after we, gave him all his deductions and credits, write-offs, et cetera, it brought his taxable revenues down to about $38,000 for the year. All right. So we did the tax return. The client had a tax liability based on those $38,000 revenues of about $8,000 in a tax bill. So the client was upset. He was like, "There's no way I don't have the money to pay this tax bill. I don't understand how that's even happening. There has to be another option." So I said, "Actually, client, there is another option. Do you give me permission to show you that option?" And so the client agreed, and we were able to make an S Corp election for the client. And then we were able to redo their tax return. And instead of him having an $8,000 tax bill, y'all, he had an $800 tax bill, right? That's the power of tax planning, right? That's the love that you get to give to your clients when you are a tax strategist, right? So if this was interesting to you, we encourage you to tune in every week where we're going to do a deep dive into tax planning. We're going to show you the benefits of using tax planning not only to grow your finances, but to shelter them, right? So if you're ready to stop overpaying in taxes and you're ready to start building your wealth, then we want you to tune in week over week where we give you practical solutions to resolve your tax problems, all right? So you don't want to miss out on next week. So please make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Please make sure that you turn on those reminders so that you are here when we walk through practical strategies and give you practical tips and tools that you can implement to start saving huge through the tool of tax planning, right? That's the tax takeover, y'all. So thank y'all so much for rocking with me tonight. This was fun. This is definitely just the introduction, right? But hopefully it has set the stage on what's to come now that we are entering into the tax takeover. And don't be afraid to use the F word this week, y'all, okay? Finances. So again, thank you so much for tuning in for our finance family. I can't wait to show you more, and we will see you next week.